Lechi lach to a land that I will show you. Lech lecha to a place you do not know. Lechi lach on your journey I will bless you. And you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so welcome on our whatever it is BFI Educates presentation. My name is Julia Newman. Most of you already know me for quite a long time. For the newcomers, so I am an Israeli tour guide. I am actually here in Israel. I'm not physically right now in the Western Wall tunnels. What you see behind me is my virtual background, but I was actually there the day before yesterday to prepare the presentation. So you will see things as updated as they can, and you will see maybe some changes. And for those of you who already been to the Western Wall tunnels, so you might see that it does not look exactly like you remember it. And for those of you who've never been there, so I will be doing my best to make you feel as if you were there and to see how amazing this place is. On the other hand, it is nothing like being there. So whenever it is possible, you are so much welcome to visit Israel and see it with your own eyes. In addition to that, I would like to remind that this is a pay as you wish presentation, meaning that the more you enjoy, the more you donate. On the other hand, if you don't feel like donating, this is fine. So we are driving to the old city of Jerusalem. The Western Wall tunnels are obviously next to the Western Wall, meaning in the old city, in the Jewish quarter. But on the way, you know, we just happened to drive next to the American consulate, which is just next to Mamilla. And all of a sudden, I saw the American flag, which is so familiar to me. And then I saw this other beautiful, colorful flag. So I don't know what you personally think about it. And this is not part of the presentation, so nothing to discuss. We passed the consulate and we entered through the Jaffa Gate. We parked the car, and here we are almost at the entrance to the Western Wall tunnels. Now, the Western Wall tunnels are visited for almost 40 years now. And since I don't know who have been there when, so if you have been there before, maybe 4 years ago or so, approximately 4 years. So this is the entrance you're familiar with. This is the old entrance. You walk underneath this modern arch, and then there is another little ancient arch, and then there was a booth where you got a ticket, and then you took a right and downstairs into the tunnels. This entrance does not exist any longer. I mean, there is still an entrance.
If people wouldn't mind turning off their cameras, it might help with the freezing, Julia, because it just happened again. So if we can all try to turn off our cameras, maybe it'll help. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, please don't do that, all of you. I need to see a few faces, okay? So some must stay with me. Thank you, Lana and Cam. Okay, great. So this is the new entrance on the right. This is a new building, Strauss building. And this is right on the left-hand side of the so well familiar Western Wall. So here you can see on the right-hand side, you can see the wall. This is the men's section. And then we walk into these open gates in front of us on the left of the wall. And we're almost there. Just before we do so, this is a very well-known photo. This is my favorite, so I used it quite a few times before. This is the open plaza in front of the Western Wall. This is the Western Wall. You can see this dividing fence, the men's section, which is the larger one on the left, the women's section, which is the smaller one on the right. You can see the wooden bridge, which can be used by non-Muslims to enter the Temple Mount, and above all, you see the golden dome of the Dome of the Rock of the mosque, of course. Now, what I want you to see, and again, I'm pretty sure most of you saw this, either this picture or another one, you are familiar with it, but it is important for us to understand what we are going to do in a sec. So this is the Western Wall. Okay, that's obvious. And this is the part of the Western Wall which was exposed forever and ever. I mean, this is where a Jew could touch the wall, could pray, could leave notes, could cry over the destruction or his own troubles. So this is the very well familiar Western Wall. Okay, no news here. But historically, and we will see the details soon, but historically, when King Herod the Great built the Western Wall as one out of the 4 walls, retaining walls for the temple, this wall was much longer. So the exposed part of the Western Wall actually continues to the right, okay, meaning south, and exactly the same way it continues to the left, meaning north. But since King Herod built the wall, well, approximately 2,000 years ago, so there were so many buildings and structures and uses and churches and mosques and you name it. So many things were built. So we have layers. We have layers starting from the original level of King Herod times and even prior to that. And these later structures, these later levels actually covered the rest of the Western Wall. Okay? Now, you might ask yourself or me, so why didn't they build things over here? I mean, why did they leave the open plaza? It was not left for us to enjoy. And the answer is that there were actually buildings built on this plaza as well. And we might have people with us now here who remember the Wailing Wall with no open plaza in front of it. This open plaza was created after the 6 Days War. So what we are going to do now, we are going to enter these doors and we will be walking towards the wall, and then we will take a left and we will keep walking left along the north and the hidden part of the Western Wall, while we will have all these buildings which belong to the Muslim quarter of today above our heads. In other words, we have the Western Wall tunnels because they became tunnels because things were built on top of them during the last 2,000 years. So this is the plan. This is our itinerary, if you wish. This is the kotel. Once again, you can see it on the right. This is the kotel. This is the exposed and familiar part of the Western Wall. This is the open plaza we just saw. And we will be entering into the secret passage. You see, this is the so-called secret. It is no secret any longer. I mean, this is how you walk into the Western Wall tunnels, but it's still called secret because when the archaeologists discovered it, it was like, oh, we found the secret passage. So we will be walking into this so-called secret passage. We will be walking towards the Wilson Arch, and then we will start walking along the Western Wall, keeping in mind that originally we were supposed to see the blue sky above our heads. Okay? The rest of the area, whatever is in front of the Western Wall, this is where we have all these houses we saw on the photo a moment ago, and this is where the present-day Muslim quarter is. All right? So we will be walking along the Western Wall. We will make it to the Warren's Gate and then to the Holy of the Holiest room. And then some of you might remember that we simply kept walking straight forward towards the north. We entered the Hasmonean Tunnel and we ended up in the cistern. And then we walked upstairs and we found ourselves in the Via Dolorosa and the main street of the Muslim quarter. Right now, they have some maintenance work going on in the Western Wall tunnels. And so we will be walking only to the Holy of the Holiest, and then we will have to turn around. So this is exactly what I did the day before yesterday. But of course, I have some photos made prior to the day before yesterday, so you will see the rest of it as well. So we will virtually make it as we were supposed to, all the way to the Muslim quarter. So welcome to the tunnels. Those who have participated in our presentation before, so you already know my son. His name is Noam. Those who did not meet him yet, so this is the back of my son. You will see his face later. And please follow tour, and this is what you see on the right, and this is green as well. So please follow Noam. Did you hear the noise? That's because we're not alone. We are part of a large group of about 50 Israelis, which is way too many for the Western Wall tunnels, but that's what it was. And now it is possible to visit the tunnels after COVID-19 is sort of almost over. So people are very happy to visit it again. Tour starting point. We are already inside the Western Wall tunnel. You can see the same sign right behind me on the virtual background. And here the explanation start. We have a guide, okay? Right now I am the guide. And this is the model of what the Temple Mount looked like right when King Herod the Great finished building the retaining walls. So this is the Western Wall, the brownish rectangle. This is where the Western Wall as it is seen today and as it is exposed is, okay? It is in this area. And we are about to see from down below this bridge. This is the Wilson Bridge. This is a very significant bridge. We will talk about it in a minute. So once again, you can see this open air street, which starts from the southwest corner of the wall, and it goes along and below the Western Wall, all the way to the north, all the way to this mighty structure, which we will see later. Well, we will not see, we will talk about it, okay? It does not exist. And this is the temple, of course. This is the temple, the second temple, which does not exist as well. But this structure here, and I hope you can see it well, if not, we will see it in a minute. This is the holiest of the holy. And this is where the foundation rock is located. And this is where the golden dome of the rock is today. So the moment we enter the tunnel, what we see is, oh, that's pretty amazing. Can you see these letters carved on the stone? It is F and R and E and I. Can you see this? Yeah? Okay. So these letters stand for the Latin word fretensis. And fretensis was the name of the 10th legio of the Roman army. This is 1 out of 2. That's it. There were 2 legions, 2 major Roman units, which participated in ruining Jerusalem and destructing and burning the Second Temple, which took place in the 9th of Av, 70 AD. And these Roman soldiers from Legio number 10, fretensis, and Legio number 6, they were here in Jerusalem. They were stationed here for months. They were probably bored, you know, before and after the destruction. And one of the soldiers, you know, they had nothing to do. So he made this graffiti, if you wish. And 2,000 years later, they're not here any longer, but we are here. So, I mean, this is amazing. And that was found right in the Western Wall tunnels. We have quite a few other inscriptions with the same number of the same name of the Legio. One of them is here. Once again, you can see LEG, Legio, X is 10, FREI, fretensis. This inscription is on display in the Israel Museum. But we are not here to talk about the Romans. We're here to talk about ourselves, if you wish. So this is what this room where guiding begins looks like. You can see that there are quite a few people in here. And again, this photo was taken 2 days ago, and almost none of them are wearing masks. And that's because in Israel, masks are no longer compulsory, which is amazing, which are really good news for us. And we really feel safe because there is almost no new COVID-19 cases. And this is a TV which is located right in front of us as we entered. And again, this is what the Temple Mount looked like when it was the temple indeed. And once again, you can see the bridge, the Wilson Bridge, and you can see the holiest of the holy of the temple. Here on the right, you can see the Robinson Arch, located in the Davidson Park today. The arch did not survive as well, but this was one of the ways for people to ascend to the Temple Mount. So in order to understand the situation of the tunnels better, we have to go back in history just for a few seconds. So what you see now in front of you, this is what the archaeologists believe the city of David, or Jerusalem, because that was altered, looked in the times of King Solomon. So these walls here, these are the walls which protected Jerusalem from King David's invasion. They did not succeed. And so the Jebusite city became the city of David. And up here on a little hill just north of the city of David, or the Jebusite city, we have the temple built by King Solomon. This is the first temple. The first temple was built approximately 1,000 years BCE, meaning about 3,000 years ago. And this first temple was destroyed by the Babylonians. Then, 70 years later, the Jews came back from the Babylonian exile, and they rebuilt the temple. They rebuilt the temple led by Nehemiah, but this temple was much smaller than the first temple. And then it was partly reconstructed by the Hasmoneans. And then, okay, now we're getting to the point, and then came King Herod. King Herod loved things big, beautiful, massive, impressive, right? And he was not satisfied with the temple which he saw in front of him. And therefore, he decided to get rid of it. Josephus Flavius describes that King Herod the Great basically removed the existing temple and he started it from all over again, much bigger and beautiful. So what you see in front of you now, this is the Temple Mount. Okay, this is the little hill known as the Temple Mount. And this red star, this is where the first temple used to be. So he removed it and he built the 4 retaining walls. Now in front of us, you can see the western wall, and then on the right, this is the southern wall, the eastern, the northern, and then he placed the platform. All right, now you have a straight, comfortable, big enough space to build a nice temple, right? I mean, assuming you are King Herod. So here he is, he built the temple, all right? So this is the temple, which is located on the retaining platform. All right, so far, so good. But then we just heard that the 10th Legio and the 6th Legio, they ruined the second temple. And so we once again left with the platform. Okay, it was not so perfect, maybe it was not so smooth, but no temple. And this is the situation up until now. And after some, well, a bit over 600 years, the Muslims built the Dome of the Rock. Here it is. As you know, we believe that the Dome of the Rock is located exactly where the holiest of the holy of the first and the second temple used to be. This is the foundation rock. This is the rock of the binding of Isaac. And for the Muslims, this is where Muhammad ascended to heavens. All right. Amazing. And then, okay. And then so many things happened. You know, the Muslims build new neighborhoods. The Crusaders came over and built more. And then the Mamelukes replaced the Crusaders. And starting from the 13th century, they decided that what they want to do is to live at the same level as the Dome of the Rock. And therefore, they started building huge retaining walls and arches and building their homes on these retaining walls and arches. I'm trying to get rid of the air condition. Okay. And that's how we have the Muslim quarter today, which is same level as the Mamluk period Jerusalem, which is almost same level as the platform of the Temple Mount and the Dome of the Rock. So we are about to walk, not crawl. This is what the first archaeologists had to do. We're going to walk in an upright position underneath these structures, which were built by the Muslims, the Crusaders, and the Mamelukes. So we are now here. Okay, I hope you can see. Okay, yep. We are here, right underneath the so-called Wilson Arch, named after one of the greatest archaeologists, thanks to whom we actually have the tunnels, because he was the first one to excavate them, together with another great archaeologist and seeker of adventures, whose name was Charles Warren. So we are standing right here. We have all these layers going downstairs to King Herod's period. You can see that 2,000 years ago, this was built by King Herod the Great as the street. This is the level where people are praying today. And the Wilson Arch, where the supporting arches of a huge bridge, which you already saw twice before, which was used by the priest. You see, this is the high priest, in order to walk from his house in the Jewish quarter of today directly into the temple. And King Herod the Great, of course, built whatever he built on top of the ruins of previous periods, meaning First Temple period. Right? Okay. Now, I hope you can see this golden star here. And that golden star here symbolizes a window. So since we're standing on the left-hand side, let's take a look to the right. And as we look through the window, we will be looking at this platform. This is the present day level, and that's what we see. This is the invisible, otherwise part of the main section of the Wailing Wall. The exposed part of the Wailing Wall is on the right of this photo, so we don't see it from the tunnel. And this is the, well, hidden for ladies part, and the only way to look at this part is during the Western Wall tunnels tour. You can see the Holy Arts here, you can see the most Orthodox men praying here, and you can see the arches, you can see the ceiling above them. That ceiling was originally built by King Herod the Great, and above these arches, above these ceilings, this is where the high priest walked into the temple. And this is pretty amazing. So since it is accessible for men only, I sent Newman into this part, and this is what he saw. So we can share it now with him. Yes. Well, I hope you could hear the amen. And this is how it goes on and on and on, 24/7. And from here, you can also look into this rest of the Western Wall tunnel. So you see there is a white fence, so men cannot walk into the tunnel from here. And of course, in the past that was possible, but now in order to participate in the tour, you have to pay money. So, well, this is free of charge. So we are back into our Western Wall tunnel tour. We are standing above this opening, and we have to take a deep look and a deep breath indeed, because what you see down below is a wall, which we don't know what that structure was, but this is definitely something which belongs to the King Herod period, 2,000 years ago. And you can see how many more structures and layers there are here. And you might be able to see this yellowish opening. It is yellowish because there is a light for the archaeologists working now down below. So that's about 60 feet deep, all the way to the level of the first temple period. Now we can take downstairs, we can get to a lower level, and if we do so, we will be following this gentleman. This is Charles Warren, the second great archaeologist, who was the first European to crawl down there and walk in the Hasmonean Tunnel, which will be later for us. So we are walking much more comfortable today, and you see we are getting to some stairs, okay? It's not very clear what these stairs are, but it is clear that part of them was removed in order to be able to see what is down below. So if we take a closer look at these stairs from a different angle, so this is what we will see. And I hope you can see stairs on one side, stairs on the other side, and that was a mikveh. This is one of the large mikvehs which are all over and around the Temple Mount, because of course a Jew who wanted to visit the temple had to purify himself. And so one of the most important issues for a Jew 2,000 years ago was the mikveh and the water for the mikveh. So the water supply for ancient Jerusalem is a totally different topic, which we might discuss some other time. But for now, you just believe me that there were so many mikvehs and there was enough water for all of them. So that's just one of them. And then this is something which is off limits for us now. But if you're an archaeologist or you have a connection to archaeologists, this lady here, her name is Tehila Lieberman. She's one of the archaeologists working in the Western Wall tunnels now. She's working on her PhD right now. And she was one of the archaeologists who uncovered the structure, which is now known as the Little Theater. On the left-hand side and down below, I hope you can see this semicircular structure. Can you see it? A semicircular stone-made structure, which is located even lower than the mikveh and a bit to the north. So Josephus Flavius, when he describes Jerusalem, he describes a theater. And unfortunately, until now, we did not find this theater, even though it does exist on the model of Jerusalem of the Second Temple period, which is in the Israel Museum in Jerusalem. Anyhow, we did not discover a theater yet. And so a few years ago, when this structure was uncovered, it was like a, whoa, we found the theater. You see, Josephus Flavius tells the truth. After a while, the archaeologists realized that this structure is way too small to be a theater. And so today, some will call it a little theater. A place where you listen to music, and then it tends to be much smaller. So, you know, the volume will be better. But still, It is pretty amazing, you know, right next to the Western Wall, and you can see the Western Wall right here at the same photo. So the distance between the theater and the Western Wall is literally a few steps. And for people, it feels, you know, not right. We should not have a theater right next to the Western Wall. But we have to keep in mind that when this theater or Odeon or whatever it was built, the Western Wall was nothing special. It was nothing to write home about. The Western Wall was just one of the retaining walls of the platform for the temple. That's it. The holiness of it came much, much later. So we should excuse our ancestors for placing a little theater here. So we keep walking, and here we are at another mikveh, of course. And as we keep walking another few steps, this is another mikveh, okay? And that again, that brings in mind the thousands, maybe tens of thousands of pilgrims who would come to Jerusalem every single regel, you know, on the high holidays, when you have to be in Jerusalem, when you have to be in the temple, when you have to make a sacrifice, and then you have to purify yourself. So I can literally feel as if, you know, one of my great grandfathers would walk down these stairs. And here we are at another mikveh. Now, this mikveh has a special story because it still has some water in it, okay? Maybe it's not very clear on the photo, but there is a little bit of water here, and that little bit of water comes from this little opening in the wall. Now, in the past day, according to all the regulations of it, but you know, 2000 years passed, and today this water coming from apparently some, you know, broken, maybe not sewage system because there is no smell, but some, you know, some hole in a pipe in one of the homes of the Muslim quarter. So I would not recommend anybody to bathe in it. But a few months ago, a guide of the Western Wall Tunnel tour, she was about to enter the mikveh with a group, and all of a sudden she saw a gentleman standing in front of her and literally blocking her way. And she was like, "Hey, what are you doing here? I want to enter the mikveh." And he said, "Well, I'm sorry, but I have a few friends actually taking a bath in the ritual mikveh. So it is impure, not recommended. And so now they lock it when there is nobody in there." But it used to be a mikveh. And then we proceed to the so-called Herod's Hall. It was definitely built in the times of King Herod. We don't really know what it was used for, but this is the most pretty, the best made, with a pillar in the middle of it, hall. This is Noam, by the way. This is my son facing us. And there is a suggestion, okay? We don't really have any proof to it, but there is a suggestion that this is where the Sanhedrin used to be. This is actually the Sanhedrin building after the Sanhedrin had to leave the temple itself. And this is something described in the Talmud. So maybe the Sanhedrin would sit down here and make the most important decisions for the Jewish world then and today. Maybe it was used by just some wealthy person, we don't know, but this is a beautiful hall. And you can also see how many layers of structures and how many changes and addings were made here. You can clearly see that the ceiling looks different from the wall, and the upper part of the wall does not look same as the lower part of the wall. And I love this hall because you can see the entire history of the Western Wall tunnels in here. This is used to be one of the entrances. Now it is blocked. And again, you can see how well this wall is made, how perfect the carving of the stone is. This is definitely King Herod style And of course, what a mess of ages. We keep walking in the tunnels and we see more and more entrances and exits and passages, and then something is blocked, and you know, it's like a maze, and it is so amazing that the entire thing exists underneath, once again, the present day Muslim quarter. And definitely there is so much more to it. I mean, excavations take a long time, and they cost a fortune, and so we still have much more to excavate comparing to what we already excavated. And well, it's just amazing. Speaking of VFI, we, on top of volunteering in bases, we also have an option of participating in a real archaeological excavation in Jerusalem, which is amazing. And once again, we see walls which were built for one reason, and then we have plaster which made them into water cisterns some other time later in history. And now we are entering another large, massive, very impressive hall, full of pillars, a little bit similar to the night halls in Akko, if you're familiar with those, but this one is much older, but it was used by the Crusaders as well. And today you can celebrate your bar mitzvah, if you wish, right here in this hall, as part of the Western Wall Tunnel tour. So this is what the hall looks like, and you can see the table set. So apparently there was a bar mitzvah, or there will be a bar mitzvah soon. And hey, all of a sudden you take a look at this, at the floor, and you can see this opening. It looks like a well, but it's not a well. It's just an archaeological window. It's just an opening which was made by archaeologists to remind us that if you think this is ancient, so down below we have much older, much older layers. So this is a room which is called the Shrine of the Ages. This is what it looks like. It's very tall. And up here, this is the ceiling with some concrete addings to it, and there is a modern house right above it, while down below there is another opening which goes all the way to the bedrock, all the way to before First Temple period. And so we will take one last look at this incredible mixture of ages. No way I can tell you who built which wall when. The bottom line will be just that down below, this is the bedrock. This is the Jebusite city, which was taken over by King David some 3,000 years ago. And as we get higher, as we look up there, so we are moving through the Second Temple period, the Old Muslim period, the Crusaders, the Mamluk, the Ottomans, the Brits, and finally, the State of Israel. This is a 3D model which is located inside the tunnel, and that's again to explain what we're doing. We are located around here. I can't tell you exactly where, but around here, right next to this Wilson Bridge with the high priest walking on it, right? And we will be walking now left. We'll be walking north. This lady here stands next to a little gate, which is known as the Warren's Gate. We will see it soon. Here, this is in front of the holiest of the holy. And here we will have to turn around. But normally, with no maintenance work, we simply keep walking along the street and all the way towards the Antonia Fortress, having the western wall on our right hand side and the temple on the right and above. So I would like to ask you to keep in mind that when you walk north, you finally make it to the Hasmonean Tunnel. Okay, this is the Hasmonean Tunnel. And the Hasmonean Tunnel will bring us into a pool. Okay, that's important for later. But just remind it, just keep that in mind. Well, this tower, these 4 towers belong to the mighty fortress, which was built by King Herod in order to overlook and protect and defend the Temple Mount. And this is the Antonia Fortress. Okay, so this is the Hasmonean Tunnel, and this is the pool, the so-called Strution pool. Another look at the model. That might be the original location of the Sanhedrin. Maybe this is where they sat before they maybe moved to this other hall we saw before. These are the Hulda gates, which are now blocked off the southern wall. Another look, the last and final. Now we are looking at the temple from the east, from the Mount of Olives. This is the Shushan Gate, the only gate directly from the east. And here you can see the entire structure of the temple. And you can see the southern part. This is where the Al-Aqsa Mosque is located now. And another few steps from there. And here we are in a synagogue, a relatively new, only a few years old. I'm not sure when exactly it was opened, but this is the Chuva Synagogue donated by Yitzhak Chuva, one of the wealthiest Jews living in Israel today. It is a beautiful structure occupying one of the halls of the tunnels, with this beautiful, unique, one of its kind, or at least I never saw nothing like that. This is the Holy Ark, which looks a bit like a pomegranate with a flame on top of it, with the words from the Psalms, with the golden menorah, golden Chanukiah right next to it. So it is a beautiful synagogue. So if you want to celebrate a bar mitzvah and you're not claustrophobic, so this is where you do the Aliyah LaTorah, and then you move to this other hall we saw before for the party. But we're not celebrating bar mitzvah, so we take a look from behind the Holy Ark down below, and this is what we see. This is what we see. So that's about time for us to get downstairs and get right next to the wall so we can touch it. So right now we're downstairs. We are touching the western wall, and we can still see the Chanukiah and the Holy Ark of the Chuva Synagogue above us. So here we are, and now we are facing the western wall, and not just the western wall, but we are facing and touching the largest stone of the western wall, one of the largest construction stones in the world. Here it is. Okay, I'm standing on one end of the stone, and Noam is taking a photo from the other end, and you can see the dimensions. 40 feet long, estimated 6 to 9 feet tall, because part of it was damaged, so we're not sure. Approximately 15 feet deep, again, approximately, nobody moved it, and over 20 million pounds. And it's not located on the bedrock. It is actually a few layers above it. So somebody had to carve the stone, had to move the stone, had to lift the stone and place it where it is, which is incredible. And now we are going to watch a very short movie. It's like 2 minutes long, which will explain how exactly it was made. Now, I'm not sure it is a very convincing movie, but that's the best we have. And as a fact, the stone is right here. So the movie is about to start. Okay, well, I don't know if you're in Convent, you can possibly move a stone which weighs over 20 million pounds using a few bulls. So if you're not convinced, you're welcome to suggest another explanation. But here it is, right in the Western Wall tunnels. So we keep walking along the wall, and now we see water cisterns. No more mikvehs, but water cisterns. And again, water is everything. Water is life. This is how it is described in the Bible, and this is indeed true. So we keep walking with this cisterns from the Byzantine period, Crusader period, Mamluk period, and then we make it to Warren's Gate. This is the Warren's Gate. You probably ask yourself, where is the gate? Well, this is a good question because there is no gate. The thing is that there used to be a gate when there used to be a temple up there on the Temple Mount. But after the temple was ruined, the gate was, well, not so useful any longer. And so we have descriptions from the medieval times that there used to be a synagogue in a cave. And that synagogue in a cave is identified with this. So probably the gate became sort of a cave where the synagogue used to be. And then later, the gate was entirely blocked. And behind the gate, there is a large water cistern, which is still used for the needs up there on the Temple Mount. So there is no gate, but it is still called Warren's Gate, named after Charles Warren, who was first to get here and identify the location of the former gate. We wish we could actually, open the gate and walk through it right to the temple, the Temple Mount, the mosque, but we can't according to the status quo. Up there, as you look above the gate, you can see chairs. Can you see the legs of the chairs from down below? These chairs belong to the synagogue of Rabbi Getz, which was established around 70 years ago, maybe. And this synagogue is located precisely 97 meters, which is almost 300 feet from the holiest of the holy, from the foundation rock. And again, 24/7, there are men praying in this synagogue, looking towards a wall and thinking of the temple, of course. And then a few more feet north, we will be getting to this place, which is very important, very sad and tragic, I would say, because this is the spot which is exactly in front of the same rock which is believed to be the creation rock. So this lady, and there are always women praying and crying at this location, looking at the wall, because this is, again, the closest they can get to where the holiest of the holy used to be, and where the Ark of Covenant used to stand. So she's praying east now towards the temple, and this menorah is right behind her and behind me as I'm looking at her. And normally we would keep walking straight forward, but as I said, we cannot because of the works. But this is what we can see. Okay, this is the last look. This is something which is called the Tunnel of the Ministry of Religion. As you can see, it is concrete, but on the right, still, this is the Western Wall. And down below, there is more of the Western Wall. So this is not the original level. So we can keep walking straight forward towards the pool of Strution, which I promised you before. Strution is the Latin name for this bird. In English, this is a lark. So we will be walking in this tunnel. This is what the Hasmonean Tunnel looks like. This tunnel was made during the Hasmonean period, meaning some 22 centuries ago, in order to provide water, which would come from a natural riverbed outside. It is so complicated to imagine, but just imagine that before there was the Western Wall and before there was the Western Wall tunnel tour, there was just a, open hill. And the Hasmoneans carved a tunnel to bring the water into the city. We walk by an abandoned quarry. We walk through another water cistern. We imagine that we do that. And finally, we made it to the pool. This is the very end of the Western Wall tunnel tour. This is the pool of Struthion. It is called Struthion, by the way, because it is a tiny little one. It's not so little, but this is the smallest pond among those made by King Herod the Great to supply water for the Antonia Fortress, to the temple, and to entire Jerusalem. And as you can see, there is still water penetrating from the aquifer water and some droppings from the walls. Now, this is what you see when you come out from the Hasmonean Tunnel. And then another look, you will see this wall. All right, can you see this wall? This wall has an interesting story because this wall cuts the pool of Struthion into two parts. The smaller part is what we see now here in the end of the Western Wall tunnel tour, while the bigger part is somewhere else. So in order to see where is this somewhere else, let's look again at the same model we saw before. Okay, this is the Antonia Fortress protecting the Temple Mount. Does not exist, ruined long ago. But right next to it, you can see the pond of Struthion as it was built by King Herod the Great. Okay, all right. And then, after the Bar Kokhba revolt in the 2nd century AD, Adrianus, who was the emperor, decided that he wants to build a plaza. You know, he wanted to build a beautiful forum. So he covered the pool of Struthion. He basically made a floor. Much later, two very different structures were built. One is a Muslim school for boys, and the other one is a convent known as the Ecce Homo, or the Sisters of Zion Convent, which was actually established by a converted Jew. And as you can see, both structures are built on top of the floor, which is on top and above the pool of Struthion. So what we need to do if we want to see the rest of the pool, we have to walk upstairs. Now we are standing on the present day level of the Muslim quarter, right at the first station of the Via Dolorosa. Okay, totally different story, which we're not going to discuss now. But as we look at this Muslim school, which occupies part of where the Antonia Fortress used to be, and we just saw the part of the pool of Struthion, now we have to take a left and underground once again. And now we are underground inside the Convent of the Sisters of Zion. And we are standing on these chiseled stones, which are part of the floor, which covers the pool of Struthion. By the way, it is a very important location for Christians, but forget it. We keep walking downstairs because we want to be under this pavement, because this one is too young. Now you can see the rest of the pool of Struthion. You can see the same wall we saw before in the tunnels, but now we see it from the side of the convent. And the gentleman, very handsome, I believe, this is Captain Charles Warren. And he is the guy in a way, who is responsible for this wall, which cuts the pool of Strution into two parts. Because in the middle of the 19th century, being crazy seeker of adventures, he made it underground into the pool of Strution. And he discovered the connection between the pool of Strution, which was used by the nuns, and the Hasmonean Tunnel, and further into the Western Wall tunnels. Because of him, the nuns realized that somebody might make it into their pool and then into their convent. They did not like the idea, and therefore they built a wall. Okay, this is the wall which was built by the Catholic nuns of the convent to make sure that nobody will pop from the Hasmonean Tunnel into their pool and convent. And this wall is still there. So all we need to do now is walk back to the Western Wall through the Muslim quarter and the metal detector. And then we will be back at this open plaza we know so well. This is the Western Wall we know so well. But now, or next time you visit, you will keep in mind that this is the present day level, while down there we have the ancient levels of the Second Temple period. There is a plan to keep excavating, and once upon a time, in the future, the entire area which is underneath the open plaza will be open to the public, and then you will be able to, walk the tunnels and walk underneath here and touch the Western Wall in this area, which is currently closed to the public. And if that will not be possible, so at least you will keep in mind that there is so much more to Jerusalem and not just what we can see and know. So thank you so much for joining me. We are back from the tunnels and it is so sunny. You see that even though I have my sunglasses, I could not even look at the camera. So it is very, very sunny. It's summertime here in Jerusalem. It's not too hot yet, so you should come. So thank you much for joining me and listening. And now I'm open to questions. I will stop sharing. Okay.
Thank you so much, Julia. That was wonderful. I think we do have a few questions. People are loving it.
Well, it is amazing. Larry asked me the other day if it's okay for claustrophobic people. So I already shared that I'm claustrophobic, so I do experience some troubles, especially in the Hasmonean Tunnel and the parts which are now closed to the public. So I was sort of happy, that I did not have to experience, but it is amazing. I mean, even if you are claustrophobic, you should visit at least once. It is incredible. It's worth it. Okay, so let's look at the chat. So I am going to look at the chat, and then we have as much time as we want. I will just want to announce the program for next week, because I know that people start leaving as soon as the presentation is over. So you're all welcome to join us next week. We have two wonderful presentations. I believe they're wonderful. One is a presentation by Stav Shachaf, and she will be talking about the Bauhaus architecture and present-day architecture in Tel Aviv. So we will be going to Tel Aviv once again, but from an architectural point of view, and I believe you will enjoy it. For those who've listened to Stav, she was talking about graffiti in Tel Aviv, and now she will be talking about architecture. So this is Tuesday. And Thursday, we will be driving along the Lebanese border with me. We already drove along the west part of it, and now we will be driving the east part of it. So we will be visiting Metzudat Koach and Tel Chai and Kibbutz Misgav Am and Metula and a few other locations. So I believe it will be very interesting. And even if you did not participate in the first part, so you're welcome to join us on the second part. Okay, great. So let's see if okay. Archaeological explorations around and at the wall able to being done presently. Archaeological explorations yet, excavations not necessarily. Harry, I'm not sure what you meant by your question, but if the question is actually about can we excavate next to the wall because of the sensitivity with the Muslim authorities, so yes, it is very sensitive, and we can excavate as long as we do not touch the wall itself. And even more so, of course, not making any openings, okay, towards the Temple Mount. Of course, we cannot even dream of reopening the Warren's Gate, because then that will be the violation of the Waqf, or at least the understanding, Muslim understanding of their rights over the Temple Mount. So we do have archaeological excavations, undergoing archaeological excavations constantly, but they do not touch the wall, and then do not go any east from the Western Wall. So each Roman legion had between 4,000 and 6,000 soldiers, exactly. Why is it called the Wilson Bridge? Okay, as I mentioned, Charles Wilson and Charles Warren were the two British engineers, archaeologists, officers, and spies, all in one, which were the first Europeans to actually explore, partly excavate, and discover parts of the Western Wall tunnels and the surrounding structures. And so present-day Israel decided to commemorate their names. And so we have the Wilson Bridge, we have a Wilson Gate, which I did not mention. We have the Warren's Shaft in the City of David. We have Warren's Gate in the tunnel. So it's just, to say thank you. We appreciate what you did. Morris, I believe it was named after an archaeologist named Wilson. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Try to take pictures. Larry wrote a message that those arches in the prayer room was essentially synagogue. Yeah, I mean, they are synagogues, same way as the Western Wall is a synagogue. So it is open to men only. Women can look at them only from this upper part of the Wilson Bridge, as I showed you, and then you can take photos. Gail wrote, wouldn't an open-air temple next to the wall be a good place for announcement and Torah reading? Well, if you talk about the open plaza, so that was one of the ideas. I mean, back in 1967, when we took over in United East Jerusalem and West Jerusalem, there was a neighborhood where the open plaza is today, which was called the Mugrabim, populated by Muslim Arabs from North Africa. And then it was simply demolished. It was totally removed, and therefore we had this open plaza. Now we had a few dozens of suggestions. What should we do? What should be built instead of this neighborhood? One of the suggestions was exactly what Gail mentioned, and eventually it was decided not to decide. I mean, there was so much controversy about what should be built. What type, what should it look like? Should it remind a temple? Should it not remind a temple? If it is a synagogue, so what restrictions will there be for Jews and non-Jews who want to visit and pray their own way. It was just decided to leave it open and empty as the easiest, the most convenient, way. But yes, it was discussed for quite a few years. How big is the theater, the semicircle? There's no way you can tell scale on the picture. It is very small. It is about the perimeter is approximately 10 meter, even a bit less than that, which is approximately 27 maybe feet. Okay, it is tiny, and on top of that, it was not built. I mean, they started building it and then it was abandoned. So it was never used. It was probably meant to be an Odeon and it never became one. Why it was abandoned, we don't know. Maybe they started building it just before the destruction of the temple, and then things changed a great deal, and they never accomplished it. That's just a suggestion. Colorful Detroit billionaire and philanthropist was okay, well, that's a lot of information here. Davidson, yeah, he's the founder of Davidson Park, right. Okay, thank you, Jennifer, for your kind words. Thank you so much. And thank you all who agreed. Well, now I'm flushed. What was the post? What do you mean, Lana?
Ignore it.
I need to
ignore it.
Ignore it. Okay. All right. Sure. Okay. So is there a Get Synagogue above the women's carved section of the wall where women pray? No, not at all. No, the Get Synagogue is right above, okay, it's above the level where we stand today, and it's right opposite of the location of the holiest of the holy. So maybe this is what you mean, Gail. I'm not sure what you meant. There is the women's section of the Western Wall Plaza, okay, which is not there, and there are women praying with the menorah on the wall I showed you in front of the holiest of the holy. So if this is what you meant, so the answer is yes. Yeah, the Get Synagogue is right above, even though there is like the passage where we stand when we are there. So the synagogue is above and just a little bit behind us. So basically, they're not praying right above my head if I'm there now. They're praying a few meters behind me and above my head. Okay, this is the best possible explanation I can make now. I hope it was clear. I understand the tunnel was planned to turn the corner and continue around the retaining wall. Yeah, it is still continuing around. The tunnel is along the retaining western wall, and then at some point it leaves it and goes inside the Hasmonean Tunnel. It will not be changed because the Hasmonean Tunnel is actually carved in the bedrock. So if you want to keep the same level, you walk inside the Hasmonean Tunnel. Is it possible to share that video of how the huge stone was moved, or direct us to find it? Yes, of course. I don't. Let me.
Is that Stuart's question?
That's Stuart's question.
Yeah, Stuart said that Mark sent him the link, so don't worry.
Okay.
It's down further.
Okay, great. It's a YouTube one. It's a very basic one. They used to have it inside the Western Wall themselves now. Okay. Well, somebody, I have only the J. Brandis, he said he can't wait to do it in person. Well, that means that I succeeded. This is exactly what I wanted you to feel. I mean, I did the best I could, but there's nothing like reality. Yeah, Carol, you asked when will the recording of this program be available?
I posted.
Steve takes care of it. So normally it takes a few days, and then you can find it on the tiny URL. And you're welcome to watch.
I posted that anyone can go to the tiny URL, which I posted the link to, and I'll post it again, or you can go onto YouTube and type in Volunteers for Israel, go to our channel, and you'll see it as the first program.
Okay, Sura, that she did it 3 years ago, and I filled in a few blanks. Great. Wow, this is wonderful. Thanks. Excellent tour. Yay. Okay. Larry wrote that he visited the holiest of the holy window, which contained a flame that apparently never goes out. Whoa, what is it? A holy of the holiest window which contains a flame? I never heard of it. Larry, if you can...
You feel free to unmute yourself.
Yeah, Larry, I will be delighted to hear about it. I never heard of such a window. So if you're still here, we're waiting for an explanation. Okay. You noted the second revolt. What happened? Well, the second revolt led to the destruction of the temple and ruining of Jerusalem. I mean, 70 AD, 9th of Av. This is when we lost the temple, and we have no temple ever since. I mean, this is the final result of, maybe not the final, but the most tragic result of the revolt. And then, and you know, the revolt continued for another 3 years, and then Masada was the very end of it. But the most tragic result is the burning of the temple. Okay, תודה רבה, Lila. So, does the Pilgrim Road connect to the tunnels? Okay, well, no. I mean, okay, if you're not familiar with the Pilgrim Road, this is the underground tunnel, once again, of course, for the same reason, because, you know, things were built on top. So this is the tunnel, which starts at the Siloam Pool in the city of David, and it goes all the way to the Western Wall. So this is called the Pilgrim Route. And historically, obviously, it was connected to the Western Wall tunnel because, you know, back then there were no tunnels. You would walk from the Siloam Pool all the way uphill. You would make it to the Western Wall, and then you could keep walking along the Western Wall towards the north or ascend to the Temple Mount. So that was in the past. Today, they're disconnected because we have different authorities which are in charge of the two different parts. And so you have to get a separate ticket and you have to, okay? So they are not connected today. Larry, I can see that you are back.
Okay. I can tell you
please
if you
explain.
want.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I was there during the Second Intifada, and there was almost nobody around. So I entered, I was looking for things to do. So I figured, okay, I'm going to go take that tour because there wasn't a crowd or anything. So I went in there. I pretty much had the place all by myself. I know that sounds kind of strange. I mean, there was some people there, but not a big crowd like you'd find today. So I went down, I explored as much as I could. And then I'm walking down this long, thin tunnel, straight shot. And then all of a sudden on my left, as I was walking down, I was near the end, and at the very end of this tunnel, there was that closed gate to the Muslim quarter. There was like 2 or 3 steps, and at that time, and it was closed at the time. But before those steps, like 50 feet before or something like that, on my left, there was this window, and it wasn't very big. It was like only like 3 or 4 feet by 3 or 4 feet. And I vaguely remembered, I was just like, you know, I was really just like, stunned when it said this is the Holy of Holies. I mean, I didn't even know it was there. And so, like I said, oh my God, I mean, like, this is the place where, like, God, this is where the ark was and all this. I mean, I was by myself, and all these emotions were running through me. And I did see a flame, and it did say that, this flame doesn't go out or anything like that. Now, things have changed, obviously, since the year 2000 or 2001. The things have changed since then. But you had indicated, I thought you had indicated or shown a picture of a Holy of Holies room. And so that wasn't available. I don't know if you can tell me something about that today.
Well,
what's there now? What's there now? It was just a window there with like a flame, and it stated Holy of Holies, and about the flame.
Enough. Let her to speak. Answer.
Sorry.
Please don't be rude. If you have something to say, put it in the chat. Please don't tell anyone to stop.
I got emotional. Sorry.
No.
Okay,
It's
Larry,
okay.
keep talking.
Hey, folks.
Excuse me.
Knock it off.
Okay, Larry, so first of all, I would just want to make sure that maybe I was not clear enough. The holiest of the holy is on the Temple Mount, is believed to be where the Dome of the Rock is, the mosque with the golden dome to it. This is where the holiest of the holy used to be. So the room I was showing and I was talking about is as close as you can get to the holiest of the holy. This is not the holiest of the holy itself. It's just 97 meters west from it. Okay, it's out. The tunnels are outside of the Temple Mount, while the holiest of the holy was obviously on the Temple Mount. So I'm not sure which. I never saw a flame. Okay, even though I've been there before and after the Second Intifada, but I cannot recall a flame, and it was not precisely the holiest of the holy.
Did you see a glass window? Did you see a glass window in the wall?
There is a glass window, but it's not exactly there. It's a bit away. It's
well, this
not
is just
exactly
on the side
there.
of this is on the tunnel wall. This is right on the tunnel
It
wall.
sounds like Julia doesn't know about it, so
No,
maybe
I cannot contribute anything to it. But I'm glad that you saw it and you got emotional, and that would no. I mean, that would matters. I mean, this is the thing. It's not about the stones; it's about emotions, and this is what that what I believe is right. Because I don't know, when you worship idols, so you worship stones. When you worship a God in heaven, so you don't worship stones. You just feel things. You connect it to things.
Yeah, I thought it was on top, but obviously now I think about it, it couldn't have been on top. But it did say that it had some depth to it as you looked into this window, and there was like I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to repeat myself, but that doesn't pretty much exist anymore.
It sounds like she
not
just
as far
doesn't
as-
know.
yeah,
She
not as
doesn't
far
know,
as-
Larry.
Okay.
So I think we have to just
just
go
a
to the
sec.
next question, if that's
I
okay.
will just a sec. I will be back. I have to connect my computer to electricity. I forgot to do it before, so just a sec. I will be.
Okay, and I see, Carl, that you asked a question. So hold on one second. You don't want Julia's computer to lose power. Okay. Sorry, Larry. I wish we had the answer for you.
Oh, no. It's okay. I mean, I know I wasn't hallucinating or anything like that.
Yeah,
So,
maybe if you Google it.
It wasn't a plaque. It wasn't a plaque on a wall either.
We just don't know.
It was really like,
Yeah, maybe if you Google it or something.
Yeah.
Google's my best friend. So.
Good point. Thank you for that.
Sure.
all right. I'm back.
Okay, so there was another question I saw. Actually, there are maybe, is it one or two? Carol asked a question at 3:24. And
Yes. What I was asking, I know there are times Jews are not allowed on the Temple Mount, and not allowed in. Are you allowed up on the Temple Mount if you're Jewish, and are you allowed to go in to see where the rock is where Abraham was sacrificed, where Abraham was going to sacrifice Isaac?
So what is the question?
Are Jews allowed up there? I mean, how much?
Oh, are there? Yeah, of course, yes. So let's start with the second part of the question. Jews or Christians or whatever it is, which are people who are not Muslim, okay? It's not because we're Jewish, it's because we're non-Muslim. So non-Muslims are not allowed into the Dome of the Rock. So there is never a time when we can see the rock of creation, the rock of binding of Isaac, the location of the holiest of the holy, okay? So unfortunately, this is the case. It is a truly political decision because before the second Intifada, which Larry just mentioned, before October 2001, everybody was allowed to get there and, you know, just be at the place. You had to pay a fee, which is okay, I believe, and that's it. So I have been there quite a few times. And then after the second Intifada, the second uprisal, the Muslims decided that they just don't want us there any longer. And so today this is off limits unless you are Muslim. Which is very sad because you know it is such an incredibly important place and it's such an incredibly beautiful mosque. Okay, so there are two reasons to visit. Anyhow, and the Temple Mount itself is open to again non-Muslims only on certain days and certain hours. So, for instance, Shabbat and Fridays we cannot visit. We have certain hours, very limited hours, when we can walk on the Temple Mount, and we can never get into the mosques. So that's it.
Great.
And Sue asked, when was the new entrance to the tunnels opened? That's about 3-4 years ago, something like that. I don't remember when exactly, but that's around 3-4 years now. Yeah, 9th of Av will be 1 month from now. That's true. 1 month and a day from now. That's true. Okay, well, the Carol, just answered this question. Temple Mount. Does one have to make a reservation ahead of time to visit the tunnels, or you can just walk up and pay anything? Pay anytime? Well, it depends on when, because before COVID, that was one of the most demanded, one of the most visited sites in Israel. So you had to book like well in advance. You had to book a few weeks in advance sometimes. Now when we have no tourists, so it's less problematic. So when I booked a day in advance only, but hopefully, hopefully we will have more tourists and then more visitors, and then you will not be able just to walk in and pay. So yeah, you should make reservations. Can someone speak about the VFI Plus archaeology at the City of David?
I can.
Well, Ilana, go ahead.
So we have two programs that we call our VFI Plus programs, where instead of just going on VFI, the regular Volunteers for Israel experience, you volunteer from Sunday to Thursday, and on Thursday you're taken to the main train station, bus station in Tel Aviv, and you're kind of on your own for the weekend until you go back onto the base. The VFI Plus programs were put in place for people who don't want to worry about what they're doing on the weekends. Maybe you don't have family in Israel. Maybe you're traveling on your own. And they are all inclusive trips. You pay for airfare separately, but your food, your your transportation, your hotels, Julia touring you, the tips, everything. It's all inclusive. And there are 2 of these. One is VFI Plus Advanced, which is 7 days, 2 weeks volunteering on an army base and the rest of your time traveling with Julia. And the other one that you're asking about is VFI Plus Archaeology, which is a 14-day trip. And that is 1 week volunteering on an army base and the second week volunteering at the Givati parking lot, which is the city of David. And you're there for an entire week working along with archaeologists and the head of archaeology from Tel Aviv University, who's our partner on this. I did it myself. You're there for an entire week, and I thought maybe you'd go there and they would put things under the ground for you to dig up and say, yay, I'm an archaeologist, but you're actually helping them dig, and you're digging things up. And I may or may not have broken something that I didn't want to, but it happens. But you do find things and you're helping them, and you're working alongside professionals, and that's in partnership again with Tel Aviv University and Israel Antiquities Authority. So we do have a trip, hopefully, fingers crossed, going October 3rd. If anyone's interested in either of the VFI Plus trips, I would be your primary contact. So I'll put my information in the chat. I hope that answered your questions.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Ilana. Well, right now I can see one last question, and then you will be welcome to unmute yourself if you have any further questions or anything you'd like to share. So the last question I see now is, Esther, you've asked what happened when the Crusaders came. Well, this is sort of a complicated question because so many things happened. So maybe you can make it more specific. Esther, maybe you can unmute yourself and just, what do you mean? It is too general to answer. Esther?
Esther doesn't actually know how to unmute, so
okay, I see.
All right, Esther, I'm asking you to unmute. Accept it.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Okay. I was referring to the Crusaders when you spoke about the tunnel when they came.
Okay.
It's a huge question, Esther. It's like its own talk.
I don't remember exactly what it was. It was after you spoke about the Dome of the Rock being built in the 7th century. Then you went on to the Crusaders and before Wilson's Arch.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure what it was, but I can answer something which will be generally true. Okay. So what happened? Okay. When the Dome of the Rock was built, okay, this is during the ancient Muslim period, so-called. This is the 7th, the 8th centuries. And this is when the Muslims started to build their neighborhood next to the wall, but yet it was in a lower level comparing to the level of the Temple Mount. And then when the Crusaders came and actually continued what the Muslims started beforehand, so they kept building more buildings and higher buildings. And in the same time, some of the structures which were built during the Muslim period were turned into either basements or cisterns. So some of the cisterns, and maybe this is what I've mentioned, some of the cisterns which we can see during this walk, they belong to the Crusader period, and they actually occupy a structure, a building, a house from an earlier Muslim period. Okay, generally speaking, the Crusaders changed what Jerusalem looked like a great deal, and of course they discovered the arches which were built by King Herod the Great to support the southern part of the platform, and they believe that this is King Solomon's stables. And they turned the Al-Aqsa Mosque into a church, and they built the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and so many other, so much more than that.
Julia, I have a question.
Yeah. Yes, Ina.
After the 24th, is there a program the next week?
After the 24th, yes. We do have, yeah. I mean, there is a program on the 29th.
There is? Okay, I don't have any.
I know, because there was supposed to be something and then something else. And then, it just, I don't know, somehow it didn't work out for the 29th. It was a bad date for some reason. But today, I finally got a yes from a good speaker we had before, but I don't yet have the topic. So either today or tomorrow, I will send you the details.
Great, because I'm ready to send out the schedule to everyone for the week to come, and I just wanted to make sure I wasn't leaving anything out.
I know, it's my fault. Somehow I could not fill it in, but
it's okay. Just send it to me as soon as you have it.
Yeah, probably today. Probably I will have it later today. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Ina, do you have a question?
No, I just want to say that some years ago, I had a tour of the Dome of the Rock and no problems.
Maybe that was many years ago,
Yes.
or maybe you were many years ago. Yeah. Well, before 2001, I mean, I told you, I've been there like a million times, and it's so much worth visiting. And actually, there are quite a few Muslims which would like it to be reopened for tourists, because, this is a source of income. There is a complicated situation between the Palestinian Muslim authorities and the Jordanian Muslim authorities, which are actually in charge of the Dome of the Rock. I mean, there is the inner Muslim politics, okay? The bottom line is that we cannot visit, they're losing money, and there are many Muslim people which would like it to be different. So we really hope that they will reopen the mosques for us.
Okay.
So Barbara just asked who came after the Muslims and the Crusaders. Maluks, I don't know who they were. Okay, well, this is the whole new topic, but since, yes, Barbara, you are right. I did mention this term, and I did not explain it. So first of all, I apologize. You should use terms which everybody know. And second, to make the long story short, the Crusaders, who were European Christian Catholics, okay, they were kicked out of the Holy Land, including Jerusalem, by another Muslims, and these other Muslims, they are called Mamluks. Now, the Mamluks, the meaning. Ilan, please mute.
I'm trying to figure out who it is.
Okay, all right. So anyhow, these Mamluks, they came from Egypt, but they were not originally Egyptians. They were actually kidnapped children from Kafkaz, from the Kafkaz area and other South Asian parts of what used to be Soviet Union. They were kidnapped by Egyptian Muslims in order to be trained as fighters, as soldiers. The term Mamluk means the one which belongs, or the one which was purchased, meaning that originally they were slaves, and they were trained as the best Muslim fighters, the best Muslim army, which belonged to the Muslim rulers of Egypt. Okay? At some point, the Mamluks, the former slaves, took over their landlords, and they created a new Mamluk dynasty and a new Mamluk kingdom, which at some point conquered the land of Israel and kicked the Crusaders away. And these Mamluks were the landlords starting from the end of the Crusader period, which is the end of the 13th century, up until the Ottomans kicked them out of the land of Israel in the beginning of the 16th century. Okay, so we had Muslims, then Crusader Christians, then Mamluk Muslims, then Ottoman Muslims, and then Christian Brits. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. I
Like
know.
above
That
and
was
beyond.
long
This
and
is like
complicated.
It's like 5 talks, Julia.
Yeah, I know. No, we need another presentation about the Mamluk period, Crusader period, some other time.
Oh man.
No,
Well,
okay.
thank you so much. And if anyone would like to stay, we have like a schmoo session after this for a little bit. And if not, have a good evening. And as Julia said, if you can donate, please do. If you can't, we understand. But Julia works very hard, as do the speakers. So
definitely,
whatever you can.
But I also managed to enjoy it. So
that's
okay.
that's a good
And
thing, Julia. I don't want to feel like we're forcing you here.
No. Okay. So thank you so much.
You.
And
good time.
Please join us next week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tuesday. All right. Thank you, Julia. Laila Tov.
Laila Tov.
Bye, everyone.
Ina, please call me again.